Hi, today I want to talk about something called the employee mindset. It's something that I feel a lot of people get stuck in, and I feel it's something that we learn from a very, very young age from the flawed public education system in the United States. The employee mindset is such that if something is a certain way, and it is not fair, or it is not to your liking, or you don't think it is optimal, you simply live with it because you are not the boss, because you are not the person that makes the rules. It comes from a system where we are taught that at the end of the day, the rule is such because I'm the teacher, because I'm the parent, and you simply have to live with it. And that's not an optimal way to raise children. That's not an optimal way to teach people the way things work in the world, because the thing is, it really does stick with you when you grow up. The employee mindset prepares you to be subservient to non-optimal situations. It prepares you to work for people who tell you this is how it is, these are the rules, if you don't like them, you're not going to get paid at the end of the week. Good luck paying your mortgage and your car insurance. And while this does help to keep order in the world, it does also really water down the pool of innovative new thinkers, of people who don't really want to live life by the idea that I'm just going to do what you say because what you say, well, you're the boss. And it really does start in elementary school. It starts with this idea that, even simple things like even taking a piss. I mean, I remember in fourth grade, I hadn't gone to the bathroom in a month. I finished my work 20 minutes early. I'm sitting at my desk with nothing to do, and I have to take a piss. So I raise my hand and go, "Excuse me, Mrs. Freeland, may I use the restroom?" And I'm polite about it. She goes, "No." And if I ask why, I get in trouble. If I walk to the bathroom, I will get suspended. They will call my house. My parents will get told what a terrible kid I am. My mother will bitch at me because I'm such a terrible kid because my teacher said that. And I'll get left back, or I'll fail, or I'll have to stay after school, or I'll get put in special ed. All because I wanted to go to the bathroom. And yeah, the thing about this is that you learn from a very young age that this is how it is because, and you get taught that you simply have to live with it. That's the employee mindset. The employer's mindset, the independent thinker's mindset, is such that I will create the change that I want to see in my own life. If I don't like the way something is, I will create a plan to leave it. I'm not going to make excuses for why I have to tolerate parts of my life that I don't like. I will cut out the parts of my life that I don't like. Again, you cannot become a millionaire just because you say, "I want to be a millionaire, therefore I will be a millionaire." That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. What I am saying is that by subtraction, you do have the choice to remove portions of your life that you don't like so that you can move on. And my dad was really crucial in teaching me this from a very young age. You see, where most parents say, "I am the dad, you are the kid, you listen to me because," he wasn't like that. And today where you see all these kids getting away with murder and running around treating their parents like shit and being little wise asses, you hear a lot of people say, "I wish we had a throwback to when I was a kid and your parents just beat you and you did what you did because." I believe that both of those strategies are wrong. The strategy where you let your little chicken shit smart-ass kid go around thinking that he's a genius and doing whatever he wants doesn't work. The strategy of saying, "Fuck you, I'm the dad, I'm going to beat you if you don't listen to me," doesn't work either. My dad worked with me on the concept of mutual respect. Whether I was 2 years old, 12 years old, 22, 25, he always treated me with respect. My dad did not believe that you were just respected because you're old, that you're just respected because you're the boss. He believed that in every situation in life, you have to earn respect, even if it is from a 2-year-old. You always have to earn respect from people in order for them to listen to you. And it's one of the reasons my dad was very, very good with kids. And he thought the same with me. If I thought that something should be a certain way or I was doing something I should have been doing, he didn't just go, "Don't do that." He would ask me questions about what I wanted to do, what I enjoyed, where I wanted to go in life, what I wanted to do even that evening, and he would explain to me how what I was doing was going to cause me misery and great pain down the line. And he talked to me like an adult, and he was serious and honest about it. And I almost always listened to him. I can't remember the last time that I was punished by my dad. And even when I was punished when I was like 5 and 6 years old, he never said, "You're punished, you're grounded." He had something called a thinking chair. He said, "You sit in this chair, and I'm going to talk to you about this." He would talk to me for 10 or 20 minutes, and then he'd say, "I want you to think about it. Just sit in the chair for 10 or 20 minutes and think about it." And then we'd come back and we'd talk some more. And again, that's something that most people, they just don't encourage their kids to do, like the thinking chair. I want you to think. He actually wanted me to think. Not just think about what you did. He wanted me to think about what we talked about. And my dad himself, while never being an entrepreneur, while never being a boss, while never being a manager, he was never a small business owner. He did not have an employee mindset. Even though he had never run his own company, he was always subservient to employers throughout his career and his life. He never had an employee mindset. So in addition to the fact that he taught me to think, he also taught me by example that you do not live life with an employee mindset. You do not live life with the idea that if something is a certain way, that you simply just deal with it just because. That if you don't like something, you cannot just say, I want to go out with Christy Brinkley. I want $1 million, and you get it. But what you do is you look at your life and you look at what you don't like and you seek to change it. And you can, and that's one of the things that he was always doing. For example, in the 80s, a lot of people were getting laid off and fired on Wall Street. And he worked on Wall Street, trading stocks and whatnot. And he was pushing 40 years old, and there were these 50, 55, 60-year-old employees that were getting pushed out in favor of young people that will work for a lot less money. And he didn't want that to happen to him. He didn't like not having job security. He didn't like the idea that he could get fired or lowballed or replaced with somebody else. That bothered him. But he was about to have a kid. He had a mortgage on a house. He had a family. He couldn't just up and go to a new job. And now, while most people in that situation would go, I guess I'm stuck with what I do. I guess I can't change careers. I guess, oh, well, I would, but I can't. He decided to actually put his money where his mouth is. He didn't like that lack of security. So he'd work his 8 or 10 hour day, and then he would go to school at night for a couple of hours. My dad was leaving the house at 4 or 5 in the morning, getting home at 11 o'clock in the evening, and he did this for a year. And he wasn't, he wasn't one of those weekend dads either. He wasn't one of those people that said, I'm going to play with my son on the weekend, or, yeah, good job with that drawing, kiddo, and then went back to his newspaper. He wanted to be actively engaged in my life. Again, whether I was 2 years old, 12 years old, or 22 years old, my dad always wanted to be actively engaged in my life. So he would wake up at 5 or 7 in the morning, work until 4 or 5 or 6, go to school until 9, 10, or 11, and be on that express bus until 12 in the morning. But if I was up and I ran out of my room and I wanted to talk to him for 5 or 10 minutes, he would listen. And he wouldn't just fall asleep. And he did this for about a year. And then he finally got a minimum wage job where you had to work 12 to 17 hours a day in order to take home anything that would pay a mortgage in New York. A minimum wage job as a chef. And my mother wasn't exactly an encouraging person. I don't want to get into things about my mother too much, but she wasn't an encouraging person. She would look at you and say, why are you doing that? Why are you doing something so stupid? You're going to fail. You're a loser. You're a bum. Why are you even trying to do this? Don't just, this is not what you should be doing with your life. She would go on and on beating you down if you were in a weak spot. So if you were in a weak or vulnerable or insecure place, my mother would pretty much beat you down and explain to you how you were going to fail. And, she did that to me my entire life, and she also did that to my father. So my dad would come home after the 16 to 17 hour day, and then he would have somebody explain to him how he's going to fail, how none of it's going to work out. And he didn't come up with an excuse as to why to not do it. He said, this is why I'm doing this, and he decided to move forward. Now, after several years of working, crap jobs and things like that, let's fast forward. He became first cook at the Plaza Hotel. This is a hotel that by their 1996 rates, I cannot afford to stay at as a small business. I can't afford to have a fucking room there and eat there as a small business owner based on their rates in 1995. Much less now. And he was the first cook. He wasn't the assistant chef. He was the one who told other chefs, here is what we're cooking today, here's how we're doing it. He's the one who prepared the menu, prepared the recipes, and you can look it up. The Plaza Hotel, I think it's on 59th and Broadway, around there. It's in the most expensive area of Manhattan. This is the most expensive hotel in the most expensive area of Manhattan. People expect good food, and when people go there, they expect things to be done promptly, quickly. Like, I can complain about customers for my business and their demands and how much work I have, but what I have to do is nothing compared to cooking for 50 to 60 to 100 people at a time that are all paying an amount where everything has to be perfect. And he was at the top of his field within several years because he didn't make excuses for himself. He didn't have the mindset of, oh, well, I don't like this about my life, but I guess I'm just going to live with it because of excuse A, excuse B, and excuse C. He created the change that he wanted to see in himself. When he didn't like things about his life, he simply said, I'm going to change it. Here's how I'm going to change it. He created a plan, and then he acted on that plan to see out the change in his life that he wanted. And it's that simple. Not really, because he actually got injured several times. See, my dad didn't have good joints. He had bad knees, he had bad rotator cuffs, he had bad everything. And this is before injury. So one time he fell, and again, he doesn't have good rotator cuffs or knees anyway, and he fell on this cleaning fluid, and he slipped, it ripped the cartilage in his knee, and he fell right on his rotator cuff, which was a double whammy, and just completely just destroyed everything. And he still went to work. He was going to work with ripped, torn cartilage in his leg for 6 months. Now, again, I could probably get away with that. I sit at a chair like this. Would it be painful to walk and come to work with ripped cartilage? Sure. When you're a chef, you're doing this. You're like, let me grab this, let me grab that, let me grab this, let me get this off the stove. And then let's go back to the rotator cuff. Again, the chef is doing something like this in cutting, but much, much faster and more accurately than that. 12, 14, 17 hours a day. And he was doing all this while he was cooking food for 50 to 70 people at once. And again, this is not easy stuff. And eventually it got to the point where he wouldn't be able to do this for work anymore. And he noticed, he would need to change something in his life again. So he decided to shift back to an office job. Now, did he give up? Did he give up on working? Did he become a bum? No. He actually got a job at a staffing agency, at a culinary staffing agency, where they find chefs for your business if your chef can't come to work. So let's say you use some fucked up cheap ass cleaning fluid that destroyed all the joints that your chef had, just like my dad. Let's say that guy can't come to work today. They'll find you a chef that fits your budget requirements and fits your schedule. He actually came up with a system that allowed you to match the recipes that these chefs knew how to cook to the specific restaurant. So they wouldn't be sending you somebody that knows how to make Mediterranean food only when you have an Italian restaurant and vice versa. And he was very, very good at it, and he became a critical part of that organization. And then that wound up going down the tubes because something happened with that organization, and also my dad at that point was not physically able to get up and walk to the bus stop, sit on the train for an hour with his knee in this position. It got to a point where he almost couldn't walk, and he had to make a choice. So again, my mother, not exactly the most encouraging woman. Not exactly the most encouraging woman. You're a loser, you're a failure, look at your joints, look at your body, it's all falling apart, you can't provide for a family, you're a joke, blah, 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 every single day, day in and day out. And he files for disability. Now again, it takes years, I mean years, to get disability, and during those years, you make no money. So after years and years of making no money, my dad's at a point where he's almost completely broke, and he has nothing. And he finally decided, after about almost 15, 16, 17 years of coming home every day to somebody telling him why he can't succeed, why he's going to fail, that he didn't really like that much. And what do most people that are middle-aged or in their 50s do when they're not happy with being called a loser, when they're not happy with their marriage, when they're not happy with coming home and being beaten down every day by a bully that they're married to? They look at television. It's like it's like Archie Bunker, shows like that. They just kind of get used to the crappy relationship they have, and they live with it, and they deal with it because it's convenient, it's easy. They don't want to start their life over. They don't want to create financial insecurity for themselves. At 57 years old, completely unable to walk and lift things, my dad decided, you know what? I need to create another change in my life. I don't like where I am. Let me cut something out of my life. And after many, many, many years of being beaten down, of being talked to like he was garbage, he decided that he was going to leave. So when I was about 16, 17 years old, he decided, I'm going to leave. Again, if you are financially insecure, when you have no savings, when you're damn near crippled, and you're old, that's usually not when you decide, let me start a new life for myself, because it's not easy. Again, at this point, he was not employable. He couldn't move very well, and he didn't have a lot of money, and he didn't make a lot of money. And he decided, I'm going to start my life over. Because again, I don't like what I see. I am not going to put up with it. I am not going to deal with it just because it's convenient, just because I want to get that paycheck at the end of the week because I'm an employee, or just because I don't want Mrs. Friedland to report me to the principal's office because I went to the bathroom. He sought out to make a change in his life, even though it was going to be very difficult. And when I was about 16 or 17, we both moved into this apartment. I'm not going to say it's a nice apartment. It was a studio or one-bedroom apartment in not the nicest neighborhood, not the nicest furniture. We were sitting in an apartment in the middle of the summer, I think 2006. We were sitting in this dumpy apartment. No furniture, no air conditioning, no television, no radio, no nothing. And it was probably one of the best least stressful, best days of my life, because we didn't have to listen to somebody go on and on and on talking about how we're worthless, how we're not going to amount to anything, how everything we do is terrible, how we're failures, how we're bums, because I was used to listen to that almost every single day since I was about 2 years old, which is one of the reasons that I base a lot of these videos, that I base a lot of my life around positivity, because I was raised around so much negativity. But that's all for another video. So point being, he has no money, he has no salary, he has no health, and I still remember us both carrying boxes, and he was staying up for 24 hours to load up a U-Haul truck with all of his things, unable to walk. He's walking like this because he can't bend his knee like a fucking like the stick figure, and I don't want to make fun of him, but that's what I remember it being like. He's walking like a stick figure like this with his boxes, and I'm thinking to myself again, I want to be like him. I am not going to take any crap in my life that I don't want to take at any point, and I'm not going to make excuses for being in a place that I don't want to be. At any point in my life when I feel like things are not going the way I want, I'm going to make the changes necessary. If my dad, with no money, with no real salary, with no savings and no ability to move, can start his life over, then what kind of goddamn excuse do I have as a 25-year-old with my health, with income, with money, with opportunity to make excuses for myself? I have none. And he taught me over and over again the value of not having an employee mindset. He now lives in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and he lives in a nice apartment, and he has friends there, and he has a life that he truly, truly enjoys. My dad wakes up every day and goes to sleep every day a very, very happy man, and that's not something that he would have achieved in his life every step of the way if he decided, well, I don't like what I'm doing right now, but I'm just going to live with it because it's convenient, because it's easy, because I just want to get my check at the end of the week. He did whatever he had to do to create his life the way he wanted it to be, and even if it did take a little while to get there, it's always been something that he's worked towards, and it's always been something that he's been successful at. And that's the thing I want to get across to you. You know, when you have a business, you can't afford to have an employee mindset. As an employer, you are a creationist. I don't want to sound biblical, but you truly create your workplace in your image. If you don't like the way the company culture is going, you have the power to change it by example. But here, for example, I don't set the company culture by saying, here is what you're expected to do. Here is how I expect you to work. Here are the rules. I live it. For example, when people walk in the door, I want them to get a hello instantly. I want them to be acknowledged instantly. So I don't tell everybody, I want you to acknowledge everybody instantly. I will jump out of my chair to say hi to every single person who comes in if somebody here doesn't do that. And eventually the people here will get that that is a part of the culture. I want to give people the idea that we are working on it quickly. I never give them the idea that we're just throwing it in the slot and getting to it later. So I'll always take a look at it. As soon as people come in, I'll try to give them an idea of everything that may be wrong with it based on what they tell me when they come in. I'll always give them an idea. And again, I'm not telling them to do that, but I'm doing it every single day, and it has incorporated itself into the culture because the people who work here do work faster than any place that you can find in the tri-state area, or probably even the country for certain small repairs. We do things very, very quickly here, and that was one part of the company culture that I created because I didn't want to put up with slow people. And I have in the past hired slow people. I've hired people that barely even notice when people walk in, that you have to throw darts at to get attention out of. And they didn't survive the changes in my company culture, and they wound up phasing themselves out and leaving. Or another thing, 3-4 years ago, I was very, very unhappy with the idea that I'm pretty much at the mercy of one or two local motherboard repair companies anytime something bad happens. So a backlight goes out while you're working on a board, or a battery's not charging. I didn't want to be at the mercy of, not going to say the name, but a smiling little shit that enjoys ripping people off that's within a half mile of me. I did not want to be at their mercy, but I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. So I started getting into learning it, and I said, I'm not happy with this. Now, yes, I'm going to have to invest a lot of money in the tools. I'm going to have to invest a ridiculous amount of my time to get the knowledge required to do this. I'm going to spend hours upon hours scanning the internet just to find one schematic, many years ago. But I said, I'm not happy with this. Let me see how I can change that. It's inconvenient to do that. With the prices that some of these places were charging, it really didn't even make sense for me to do some of these things myself. Now, looking 3 years later at the amount of, at what my business is based on, what my core of my business is based placed on, I made the right decisions. But the point is, I did not have this mindset of, this is how it is, I'm not going to change it. And one of the things that I think about when I think about why I've become successful, I've always wondered, compared to the people that I've worked with, I am not as good at tech as one of the tech people that I have. I am not as good at talking to people as one of the customer service people that I've had. I'm not good at organizing like some of the secretaries that I've had. And at each individual thing that I've hired somebody for, I have not been as good as them at their job. But one of the things that I've noticed over time is that the reason that some people who are much more talented than me, who are much smarter than me, who are much better than me, or much more efficient and organized than I am, don't get as far ahead as I have, is because I believe it is because I don't have that mindset that this is how it is because I have to live with this, because I have to deal with this, because I don't have this opportunity. If only this opportunity would present itself. If I didn't like the way something was, I sought out to change it. And as ridiculous as it sounds, as silly as the opportunity to change it may have sounded at the time, I always sought it out. And there were times where it miserably, miserably failed, but there were also times that it very, very well succeeded. If you don't like the way certain employees act, do realize that you have the power to fire them. If you don't like the fact that you don't know how to do something, do realize that you have the power to learn. If you don't like some aspects of your company culture, realize that through example, you can lead people into changing it. And it is difficult to do. It's not something that happens overnight, but if you want people to act a certain way, you have to demonstrate how you want them to act yourself. And the whole point here is that you shouldn't just give up. You shouldn't say, oh, this is how it is. I don't like it, but I'm just going to come to work because this is how it is. Speak up. If you don't like the way something is, you have the power to change it. All you have to do is be willing to do the work. All you have to do is be willing to say, I don't like the way it is, or I don't like where I am right now. I'm going to subtract it from my life. And one of the good examples before I started this business with me was with Avatar Studios. When I was about 17 years old, I got hired to what I believe to be the best studio in the world. I got hired as an intern who made no money, and I was ecstatic. Like I was amazed because even again, there were interns starting there. There were interns starting at this place that made something like $0 an hour at 25, 26, 27-year-old people. And the youngest person there was somebody who was like 23 or 24, youngest person there. And I was 17 or 18 years old and I was working there. This was an amazing opportunity. And after 3 months, I actually got hired. I was getting paychecks from Avatar Studios that had my name on them. I remember, no joke, I was walking around with my balls dragging to the floor, just like, oh, I'm the shit. Oh my God. I was falling asleep on the express bus home, feeling like I was falling, at 1 and 2 in the morning because I couldn't afford a car or a cab home for the money they paid me, but I felt like I was falling asleep on my throne because I was getting paid to work at Avatar Studios. That was cool. But one of the things that I didn't like over time about it was certain aspects of company culture. Again, best studio in the world, best in class place. If you want to record amazing music, if you want to learn the industry, work there for free. Beg them for the opportunity to work there for free. But some of the things that I didn't like over time were small little aspects of the culture. Again, in the old, recording studio culture. For example, they would call people kids. Like 26, 27, 28-year-old people were considered kids. And if something didn't go right, they would say, oh, it must have been the kids. And again, think of it from my perspective. I'm 17, 18 years old. I could be there for 9 years and still be a kid. I could work there for 9 years of my life. I could work there, at the age that I'm at right now, I could have worked there my entire life instead of building a business and been there an extra 4 years and still have been considered a kid. That freaked me the fuck out. The idea that I could work at some place that long and still be considered a kid and still be considered like on that lower echelon of people. And there were also some other aspects of that I didn't like about it. Just the general. I really hate saying this because it just makes me a complete piece of shit. But the general happiness of some of the people that I worked with, it just wasn't there, and these were good people. These were people that fixed my fuck-ups, that helped me learn, that taught me things that I would have never learned if I didn't work there. But they just weren't as happy as I wanted to be. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going to be 28, 30, 35, 47, 52, But I want to be happy. I don't want to reach a point where I'm at this age just to not be a kid and then be unhappy. So I left. I left an amazing opportunity. I left the opportunity of a lifetime to work at a world-class facility and continue learning from them, because I did only learn for about a year before I left. Because I knew what I wanted out of my life. I wanted, again, as I said, I did not grow up in a positive environment. My dad and I went through great trouble to leave a negative environment. My dad was carrying boxes like the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz, because he didn't want to live in a negative environment. And the same thing was held true for me. So I went through all this work to leave an environment that wasn't exactly the most respectful and positive, only to wind up here. And so one of the things that I made sure of when I started this repair shop, everybody who works here is treated with respect. Everybody who works here is considered intelligent. Everybody who works here is somebody who has the power to make management level decisions. If my secretary or my salesman decides, I don't like the garbage carting company we use, I want to change them, they have the power to do that. I will tell them, you can fake my signature on the little form and sign up with a new company. If somebody comes in and asks for the owner because they want to know how, something about a deal, or they want to resolve an issue, they all are empowered to be the owner, because I only hire highly intelligent people. And then I give them the power to do what they please, and I respect their decisions. I may not always agree with their decision. I may not always think it's the right thing to do, but I don't walk up to them and say, well, that was okay, but what I would do is this, because I don't want my employees to have an employee mindset. I want my employees to be thinking like employers. I want my employees to be thinking like people who believe that they can create the change that they would like to see in the business, that they can create the change that they want to see in their work environment, that they can create the change that they want to see in themselves. And I give them that power, and that's something that is really, really important to me. And having that type of working environment is what truly makes me enjoy what I do. Again, am I good at, soldering and, figuring out things like this and making money? That's whatever. But being able to work and come to work every day in a positive work environment where I create the change that I want to see in the world, that, even on a small, silly scale, like with what we do, that is what makes my life worth living. That is what makes my life enjoyable. That is what makes me smile at the end of a day where I figured out that I just lost $30,000. Like, those are the things that get me through figuring out that I may be getting fined $90,000 or $100,000 for erroneous crap that I didn't do, and these are the things that really make life interesting. And that's what I really want to get across to you, is that when you have this employer, this creationist mindset, where you are in control of your life, where you are in control of removing the aspects of your life that you don't like, your life will truly change for the better. When you prioritize getting rid of what you don't like over the excuses, when you prioritize getting rid of what you don't like over how am I going to pay my bills, when you prioritize getting rid of the aspects you don't like over, well, isn't this going to ruin my relationship? Aren't these people not going to like me? How am I going to get paid? This, that, and the other. Your life will change for the better. When you work this way, you realize that things really start to fall into place in a magical way, and I really want them to do so for you the same way that they have for myself and my dad.